Hello everyone guys, welcome back. Hope you all are doing well, and today we are going to solve the second lab of web cache deception vulnerability module. In the previous lab we already completed the lab which is exploiting path mapping for web cache deception. Actually, this is the part of this one, exploiting static extension cache rule, where we have multiple vulnerabilities like path mapping discrepancies or disagreement, and this one related to the first lab. The second lab is related to the delimiter discrepancies. So in today's lab, we are going to see delimiter discrepancies between the cache and the origin server, and then we will try to exploit the delimiter discrepancies vulnerability between the cache and the origin server. Fine. So before going to that lab, this is very important to understand how this delimiter discrepancies occur. So delimiters specify boundaries between different elements in the URL. You have seen a lot of times this question mark within the URL which separate the URL path from the query string, right? And similarly, you can see here that discrepancies in how the cache and origin server uses the characters and strings as delimiters can result in web cache deception vulnerabilities. Because see, as I mentioned in the very first lab or very first video where I described the web cache deception vulnerability, I mentioned there that the different frameworks uses different delimiter characters, and those delimiter characters have different meaning for different frameworks, but the most important and most common thing is these special characters and meta characters which is used by the framework as the delimiter character. They have one common purpose, which is to separate the URL from some specific things like the query string, some matrix variables and all. So you can see here in this example, the first point is saying that, because you can see this is the path and here it uses this delimiter character. So if the application is using Java Spring Framework, because the Java Spring Framework uses semicolon character as the delimiter, and it is used to add the parameters known as matrix variables, as I mentioned before. So for Java Spring Framework, this is used as the a meta character, which is delimiter for the Java Spring Framework. But if the framework is different, then maybe this character has no meaning within the URL, and it is considered as the part of the URL and have no special meaning. So an origin server that uses Java Spring would therefore interpret semicolon as a delimiter, and it truncates the path after the profile and returns the profile information. But most other frameworks do not use semicolon as the delimiter, so therefore a cache that does not use Java Spring is likely to interpret this semicolon and everything after it as part of the path. So any framework which is not considering this semicolon as a delimiter, it is going to see this complete thing as the part of the URL, because for that framework this semicolon does not have any special meaning. Fine. So if the cache has a rule to store responses for request ending with .css, it might cache and serve the profile information as if it were in the CSS file. Okay. So that's the thing. And I would highly recommend you guys to go through all the contents, because this is very, very important to understand before you are going to solve the lab, because our purpose is not to just solve the lab. Our purpose is to understand what's going on behind the scene under the hood. So now let's go and we are going to see this happening in the practical lab, where we are going to exploit the delimiter discrepancies. Okay, so here is the lab and I'm going to click on the lab.